A federal investigation
They're going to look at as much things as they think is relevant
into New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell and a member of her security detail, Officer Jeffrey Vappie.
In regards to Officer Jeffrey Vappie, a senior police officer within the New Orleans Police Department, over 25 years there, no doubt about that, is a valued and trusted advisor.
But some members of her security team called the time Cantrell and Vappie spent together in a city-owned apartment inappropriate and voiced concerns about the behavior.
Do you think Vappie crossed the line with the mayor? In your own personal opinion?
I think he broke protocol.
More than 1,000 hours of public security camera video, hundreds of pages of documents, and a fight over whether the mayor should be able to use the apartment at all.
The use of the apartment for personal purposes could violate the state statute and the Constitution.
New questions from the federal government as a political analyst says the mayor and Vappie are preparing for a legal battle.
It just indicates to me that everybody's putting in their mouthpieces and putting on their eye black because there may be a coming storm.
What started as a tip that Cantrell was utilizing a city-owned apartment for her personal use led to an in-depth and ongoing investigation by our team that raised questions about how Mayor Cantrell spends time outside the office. August 2nd of 2022, 8:03 in the morning, Mayor LaToya Cantrell arrived at the city-owned Upper Puntaba apartment in the car with her security detail, NOPD officer Jeffrey Vappie. He walks her to the door and leaves, but minutes later, Vappie entered this door that leads to the apartment, and for 5 hours and 40 minutes of his workday, Vappie stayed inside that door. A public records request shows between 10 and 6 that day, the mayor didn't make or take one work call on her cell phones, and for those 8 hours only responded to 2 emails. One at 10:56 a.m., 2 sentences asking that a complaint about a mechanical permit be forwarded to the correct person, and one at 2:06 p.m., 2 sentences again to someone with a Vieux Carré commission. Much of the workday, an NOPD officer in charge of protecting the mayor was paid to spend nearly 6 hours of his workday inside a city-owned apartment building with Mayor Cantrell.
Is it fair for us to ask questions about this?
It's fair to ask questions because this is a taxpayer-owned property, and these are employees paid by the taxpayers. If the mayor is off duty and she's at home in her private residence, then whatever she does there is her business. Nobody's going to ask questions about that. The citizens are not going to concern themselves with that. But when you are staying in a taxpayer-owned building, and you have employees that are paid by the taxpayers have a right to know what you are doing in that property, and the taxpayers have a right to know what duties you are performing during those hours.
We began by requesting 45 days worth of video from a public security camera right outside the entrance to the city-owned apartment. An analysis of those 45 days showed for the 35 days we spotted Cantrell at the apartment, Officer Jeffrey Vappie was inside for 27 of them. Each day, the minimum amount of total time he spent there in one day was 1 hour and 1 minute. All totaled, in 27 days, he was at the city-owned apartment for more than 112 hours. That video reveals out of the 4 officers paid to protect the mayor during that time, Vappie is the only one who ever entered her apartment. In other words, the camera footage shows officers Luis Martinez and Robert Monlin and Sheriff Deputy Charles Ellis never entered this door. They didn't spend a minute inside, while Vappie went there 47 different times in 27 days, sometimes there more than once in a day. In a statement, the mayor's office told us the surveillance and its subsequent publication of the mayor is irresponsible and puts her and her family's safety at risk.
There is no expectation of privacy if you are a public official and you walk into a public building. There is no expectation of privacy because you are a public official paid by the taxpayers and you are entering a public building that is owned by the taxpayers, and the taxpayers do have the right to know what's going on in the property that they own.